Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to episode 38 of Mythos Busters, where we play a game for those who seek to find a way to leave their world behind. I'm Sean, and with me tonight is the Robin Williams to my Kirsten Dunst, Ian. Hi, Ian.
Hi, I'll take that.
Missing
comes out good on my end.
Well, missing from the mic at the moment, though he'll be joining us probably pretty shortly, is the David Allen Greer to my Jonathan Hyde, Nick, and like I said, he'll pop in at some point. So we've got a fun show tonight. We're talking about some Forgotten Age stuff, because that's, like we said last episode, already upon us. I can't believe how quickly they turned that around. They are really whipping out all of the logistical acumen for the releases of Arkham, it seems.
Yeah, it always seems like a long wait when you're in the middle of it, but then if you actually take the scaled back view, it wasn't too long compared to other waits in the history of LCGs.
Oh, yeah, well, I think Star Wars holds the record, if Scott's to be believed, and I think he's played like one more LCG than me, so I'm gonna go ahead and trust him on that one. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about our first impressions with the Forgotten Age box tonight. No spoilers, so don't feel the need to go ahead and turn that episode off. We're going to be talking about mostly the player cards, maybe a little bit of the mechanical, general implications of the scenarios, but no narrative spoilers. So fear nary a spoiled secret. And then as well, I think we're just going to round it out with some hotline catch-up and some tentacle time per the usual. So, starting out, let's start out with, first, we are through an anonymous, mysterious benefactor in possession of 2 extra boxes of the Forgotten Age, it turns out, and we want to pass those savings on to you! So we're running a contest to win a box, or the Forgotten Age expansion, if you will. And all you need to do is call in a short call to the Mythos Busters hotline at 203... Oh, wait, hang on. I'm going to do this right. It's 203-693... 203-493-6984. There we go.
We really need a jingle like the IT crowd jingle for the hotline.
So anyway, call into the hotline and leave your first name, general location, and then answer this simple question. What nickname or special name, pun, what have you, do you or your play group have for an Arkham thing? A card, a mechanic, a scenario, a place. So we've got, Cloovers, Gators, the Witching Hour, kind of all these things that have come out of just, things we've thought of within Mythos Busters and things we've picked up from the community. But we want to expand the zeitgeist and add some more fun terms out there. So we want to hear what everyone else is calling fun things. So call in with that, and we're going to pick our favorite, funniest pun, and then we're just going to pick one from the entrance, one random from the entrance. And no matter what, even if it's a quaint little joke, you still have an awesome chance to win. And no joke should be beyond the Mythos Busters. So yeah. We're going to run that until June 15th, so please call in before then, and then we'll determine the winner and get those boxes out to the winners as soon as possible, since I know it is something that if you want it, you probably want it right now.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Okay, so beyond that, I will also remind everyone, just because we're going to keep talking at you, we're just going to do that because we didn't do it last year. Gen Con, registration happened. It was a shit show. Surprising no one. But the event is out there. Ian, did you say we are sold out at the moment?
We are sold out the last time I checked. Sometimes people put back tickets and whatnot, so I haven't checked right now. But yeah, I believe we are. Okay,
so even if you go check it and you snag up an extra ticket, chances are anyone who's late to the draw is not going to get an actual ticket. Don't worry about that. Just note the time and place. come say hi. If we've got room, you can just sit down for a game. We're not going to really charge anyone extra for just coming and sitting. We're technically not supposed to go over capacity, but if there are literally chairs to fill, we will fill them. And if we have extra swag, we'll give it to people after everyone who's got a ticket has gotten theirs. So keep us in mind.
So that's it's the Saturday of Gen Con at 1 p.m., so keep that slot open.
Yes, and also Saturday at 8 p.m. or fashionably late after 8 p.m. Remember, at the Slippery Noodle, we're doing Gen Con After Dark, a little co-op with Cardboard of the Rings. We rent out the basement of a bar, and we just play party games and drink beer all night, and it's amazing. So come join us for that. That's 8 p.m. at the Slippery Noodle, just a couple blocks walk from the event center in Indy.
Mm-hmm. The event of Gen Con.
I mean, honestly, I'm going for the gaming, but After Dark is what I look forward to every year now. It's just such a blasty blast.
Yeah, and definitely looking forward to not having to wake up early the next morning, so I can safely let loose and wake up at the crack of noon or whatever the next day.
It is my goal this year not to get super drunk at After Dark, because last year I was a bit hungover. And it was a double whammy because Friday, so just short background here. I'm kind of a cardio guy. I do like core insanity type stuff. I don't weightlift. But every year my psycho friend Brandon convinces me to go do CrossFit with him. And traditionally, at least as long as we've been doing this, it ends up being on Friday. So I go and do this crazy workout on Friday. And you know how when you do like just a muscle shattering workout, it doesn't hit you the next day, it hits you the next day. So anyway, we go do this Friday, and then Saturday night we're out partying, fairly dried out and hungover on Sunday, and I could barely lift my arms above my head. It was amazing. So
yeah, I do remember that.
This year I'm going to try to keep it down to one type of pain. But anyway, come, it's amazing. Oh, and last thing I wanted to mention that we did not mention last time, if you are going to Gen Con, whether or not you're going to participate in either of those two events, feel free to come to our Discord server. We have a Gen Con 2018 chat channel, and the whole point of that is to communicate with other Arkham players to coordinate games, or, once the con starts, you can use it to meet up with people. It's been a really great tool when we've used it in the past, so even if you don't have any interest in either of our events, feel free to come and use that in our Discord server as a means to meet up with other Arkham players. Because chances are you didn't get into an Arkham event. Unfortunately.
Plus there's always those moments where you're sitting around wanting to play something and you can just be like, put out a call, who wants to play something? And inevitably someone will come find you.
I didn't expect to ever have a moment like that at Gen Con, but then that did come up last year where it was like, oh, there's actually a few hours where I don't have anything going on. So,
and those moments are precious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so I think that's just about everything to get through announcement-wise. So guys, what you been playing lately? All Forgotten Names? Or not at all? I have a feeling I just answered for both of you respectively.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
I've played one game of Arkham in the last 4 weeks. Well, no, even longer than that. My wife and I just finished our Carcosa campaign last night.
That laugh says it all.
Yeah, it didn't go great. Dim Carcosa is a scenario. It certainly is. That I've only played it the one time, and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't in the best mindset for it because, like I told you guys in chat the other night, my first 4 card draws, 3 of them were weaknesses in my deck, like literally 3 of the 4 cards. So I was already set up pretty poorly, and then the scenario is unforgiving, and I wasn't set up well from then on. So I honestly was not having fun. So I'm excited to go back into it, hopefully with a little better luck on the card draw part of it, and try it again. But yeah, it's hard. Breaking news, I know.
Sorry, I was just saying goodnight to the kiddo. So what what were you two playing for that one?
I was playing Roland. Well, okay, so Laura and I had started a Carcosa campaign, back when the box came out, with Min and I forget who she was playing. I was Min and she was not Min. She was someone else.
Did you shove your assetless Min deck at her?
No. This campaign was started long before that was ever a thing. And we got like 4 scenarios in, and she didn't like the investigator she had picked. I wish I remembered who it was, and I can't. And I was just like, Min's... No. No. And I was like, Min's fun, but she's not really what I want to be doing. And so then I was like, how do you feel about if we just started over and picked investigators that we knew we liked? And she's like, yeah. So we started over, and we're playing Roland and Jenny. She was Jenny, I was Roland.
Okay.
Good choice.
Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, everything went really well. I mean, we did, I think the whole campaign, I think we only, quote-unquote, failed one scenario, and it wasn't, the one that ends everything. So, but yeah, by the time we got to Dim Carcosa, like, we were totally set up, our decks were awesome, but like I said, card draw was bad, we were just positioned poorly, and I'm looking forward to trying it again, now knowing how the scenario functions.
See, now that's the kind of one that I wouldn't mind resetting and having a go again. Like, conceding and being like, all right, well, kind of the secret director's cut ending is that everyone actually died.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, resetting and going again, because, just the swings of bad luck can really sour an experience, and I don't like leaving it that way, because so many times it's not the scenario's fault, though I will say Dim Carcosa is a ball punch, so
it is. Well, yeah, and like when we finished, I was so ready to be like, this is terrible, I can't believe it's like this, blah 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 blah, like it's not even fun. And then I was like, no, I literally just lost. Like, we didn't even finish the scenario. It got to a point where she was 2 hits away from being defeated, and I had no way to deal with all the enemies in the middle of the map. And so I was just like, let's just quit, because we're not having fun, and we're already like 2/3 the way down that spiral, so let's just stop. Yep. And we did. And that's the first time I've ever done that, where I just stop a scenario before finishing it. Like, normally I see it through to the end, but I was just too frustrated. So I'm checking my opinions at the door until I can play it again at least one more time, and get a better idea for the flow of that scenario under less freakishly bad circumstances.
Yeah, well, and there are just those scenarios that just don't forgive the face check. Like, if you bumble at all, some scenarios will just chew you up. And I would squarely put Dim Carcosa in that category.
Yeah, it is very well equipped to do that.
Ian, how about you?
Yes, I've been playing the Forgotten Age, and I have 3 campaigns going so far, which is which I don't know if that's more or fewer than I had at the same point in Carcosa. I feel like it's a bit fewer because I'm trying to space it out a little bit, but anyway, yeah, so I've tried so far Ursula, so all solo, Ursula, Finn, and Leo are the 3 that I have tried so far.
Okay.
And
who's doing
Finn,
the best?
The best? Actually, Leo. Solo Leo. I'm gonna submit, which maybe isn't too bold of a statement, but I think he is now the because Roland obviously is a good solo gator, and Mark and Zoe aren't so much, but I wasn't sure about Leo, and he actually worked very well, and as we'll talk later, Forgotten Age scenarios can be difficult, and he it was really good. Okay. Solo Leo did really well because he has that 3 intellect versus the 2 that Mark and Zoe have, which kind of bring them down sometimes. So 3 makes a big difference, and just allies tend to be some of my favorite cards in the game. So when I have like Leo DeLuca out, and I have a Beat Cop out, and I have when one of them dies, I can bring another one out. It's just like this whole ally army that's going on. It's a lot of fun. That's Finn did really well. Also, his willpower hit me a couple times, but it is actually a very similar experience to Skid so far, that I can be successful with them, but they love writing that line. Like, both times Finn was close to dying, and in the second scenario, he was one away from both damage and horror from going insane, or being defeated either way. And I happened to give him the
I was
obol,
about to say,
so...
and you're playing with the obol, of course.
Yep, yeah, so it was close, and it was kind of, I was like, I really need to draw my second copy of Big Man on Campus, because the first one got knocked out. I was like, I need another one for a buffer. Happened to draw him, put him down, and sure enough, he managed to soak up something that would have defeated me, so... Oof, yeah, those were some close games. Ursula did the worst, but part of that I will chalk up to she's my blind play. So,
sure.
And
that's always a bit
I found
rough.
that count. Well, never mind. Let's talk about the box when we get to the box.
I was gonna say that I kind of like not knowing the cards yet, because it sounds like it. I have no idea what it is, but it sounds like you guys are saying that Finn is using oboes. So I just picture Finn running around as part of the woodwind section.
He can join the Arkham Horror Band that's steadily growing over time.
Was the oboe the duck in Peter and the Wolf?
I don't know.
I think the oboe was.
Was there a duck in Peter and the Wolf?
You don't remember studying like? Okay, never mind. Maybe it was just me. I loved Peter and the Wolf
elementary
as a child.
School, maybe,
because it tells a story with music and every instrument is a character. I'm pretty sure that the duck was an oboe. Dave says duck.
Stokes, yeah, he's
I'm looking it up. Duck was oboe.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, that's not a Google search I expected to initiate tonight. I'm
even listening to it right now.
For my part, I have actually only played Forgotten Age a couple times, mostly because I had it in my head that I was going to wrap up my Carcosa campaigns before Forgotten Age came out, and life got busy, and I fell behind, and then Forgotten Age came out, and I played it a couple times when it was new and shiny, but I've set it aside to go finish, because I'm kind of being a slave to seeing I have one more campaign to finish up before I really dig into Forgotten Age and start trying out all the new gators and whatnot. But yeah, I'm excited for. We were talking about this in mod chat earlier, but I'm really excited for Iron Man Carcosa this year, because I feel like it's gonna make us play. Like last year, we kind of coordinated. We made sure we had enough cloovering versus enemy slaying versus flexing, but for the most part, we all just brought 4 good decks. We're really gonna have to bring our planning game for this year.
I don't want to say that Dunwich was a cakewalk, but I have a feeling that compared to how Carcosa is going to be, it's going to feel like it was a cakewalk.
Yeah, Dunwich has its moments, but I feel like that one got really easy to game, and once you kind of knew the tricks, and as long as you could pack decent willpower, you were fine. But yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about Carcosa, because I did a couple campaigns after Dim was out and I had played it, is that much more so than Dunwich, like I never start a Dunwich campaign and am thinking in my head already about Lost in Time and Space. Like when that scenario comes, I just handle it. But with Carcosa, like when I start a campaign now, I think about what's my strategy in Dim Carcosa, how am I going to approach it, how am I going to build to that finale, because it can be punishing. And those campaigns have been more successful because I basically have that plan the whole time. But yeah, I think that's one of the big differences between the two campaigns is there's a lot more kind of planning those through lines of first like Unspeakable Oath, that one hurdle, and then Dim Carcosa later on.
Honestly, I have yet to play Unspeakable Oath in 4-player. I've yet to play Carcosa in 4-player, where I had played Dunwich in 4-player before that. So
I don't think I have yet either.
We did play it at the Invocation event. Casey from our Discord was playing, and I think I talked about it on the channel before. I was the lone survivor.
As Norman?
Yep, as Norman, yeah.
Is Norman a survivor?
He is now.
All right. So anyway, I've just been playing Carcosa. I'm excited though, because I have my Safina and Yorick campaign to wrap up, and then I'm done with everything I had going on. So I'm really excited to dig into the new Gators. So far, I've only tried Ursula myself, and my teammates when we played through the first time. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. That's the later part of the episode. So, yeah, Ian. No, let's go with Nick. Nick, what do we got going on in the community? Are you back and plugged in?
Kinda. I found some stuff that looked pretty cool. So two things that I want to highlight are both on the custom or game pimping side of Arkham. One of them is a custom 2-player playmat that was created by Javier Garcia. No, not the Spanish musician. I know what you're thinking, guys, but not that person. Well, I suppose he could.
How can we be sure?
I'm not sure. That's true.
Yeah.
I spoke too soon.
The guy's got 2 eighth notes in his BGG profile.
Yeah. But
it's him. I've decided.
But so yeah, he created a 2-player playmat that is actually sized for 2 players, unlike the official 2-player or official 4-player playmat, which is barely sized for 2 players. And I posted a picture of it in our Discord. There's a lot of play space on there. I think it looks really cool. Love the art on it. Mm-hmm. So that's something that's kind of interesting, but also...
Yeah, I like the fact that it's just kind of like background tentacle ambiance and not... I kind of like where it's more just like a pattern or something background like that on the playmat.
I do really like the Zodiac on the 4-player official mat.
Agree.
I don't care for the generic Arkham box art that they just... Not generic, but the box art that we see on all the Arkham. You know, like, whoa, ding ding, settle. But that kind of stuff that we've seen so much. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is Reddit user BGG user Brian Turner compiled the best custom cards of 2017 from Reddit into a single post or into a single file on BGG, and he has a PDF of the cards, he has the Strange Aeons files of the cards, and he even has links to Printer Studio, so you can just go right to Printer Studio and order the cards directly. And there's some pretty cool ones in there. I was peeking through the PDF. There are cards that have been, talked about for a while. They're all custom cards, again, made by users and fans. But throughout the whole year of 2017, he picked kind of the ones that people regarded as some of the coolest or most interesting or maybe closest to FFG's design, and compiled them into a best of collection. So if you're interested in pursuing custom player cards, definitely check that out. Even if you're not, even just take a look at some of the stuff that people came up with, because it's pretty cool.
Oh my god, there's one called Sacrifice at Midnight, where you cause another investigator to be defeated. Then you suffer 1 mental trauma, and you remove all doom in play and discard all non-elite enemies in play. Oh man, that would make for some amazing moments.
Let's make sure that Scott sees that one, I guess.
Yeah.
His Griefina deck.
Scott card.
Oh, and there's a cardboard box like Metal Gear. I need that to exist.
Oh, I missed that one. That's really cool. But there's stuff in there. There's fan-made upgrades to existing cards, and then there's also just totally brand new cards, like what Ian was seeing in there. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's what I got for community highlights this week.
Fantastic
this episode.
Ian, what news from the mock?
Okay, so it's been a little bit quieter on the news front just because we got a big release, which is usually what happens. So the first big bit of news is obviously Forgotten Age is available. Came out a few weeks ago.
Yep, April 6th.
And, yeah, April 6th, the worldwide release date. So it's been out, and people have been playing it. We got the final 2 class-focused articles from the guys at Drawn to the Flame, covering Survivor and Rogue. So make sure you go to the Fantasy Flight Games site and check out those 2, and so you can finish out the series. Other than that, other news is we don't have an article for it yet, but Silas is coming soon. I personally got my notification from that the pre-order is going to be shipping soon from Asmodee. So I can't remember the exact release date, but I think it's about 2 weeks away for Silas, the Silas novella and alternate cards to come out.
I want to say June 7th, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think that's right.
So a couple weeks, yeah.
Yep.
I'm excited for Silas. Coming up. So
yeah.
Diana Stanley was my ultimate love in Eldritch Horror, but Silas was the guy I played a lot when I first started playing that game, so he's got a special place in my heart. Especially against Cthulhu.
Yeah, I remember really liking from Eldritch Silas and Lily.
Yep.
So I'm excited to get Silas, and I can't wait for them to finally get to Lily.
Lily was the first one I ever tried, and I'm like, oh shit, so I just camp here in Shanghai and improve my lore, and then I improve it again, and then I start the game with like 4 and half my stats. Sorry, I'm a fan of Lily as well.
Yeah, she's really good.
All right.
Yes, yep. So that's about it for the news. We're still waiting for a couple of releases, of course. Night of the Zealot will come out. Oh yeah, that was the other news, is that Labyrinth of Lunacy is actually finally shipping as well.
Nice!
So it does actually exist.
That's cool. You know,
supposedly.
I thought it was pretty funny in our Discord when Thursday rolled around. There were a couple people who were like, all right, we're due for our next Mythos pack article today. Like it was definitive, and it was pretty funny because it didn't happen, unfortunately. I was looking forward to seeing the next one because I'm like, oh shit, we record on Friday, but guess what, guys? It doesn't come until we record. We're gonna get that on Monday or Tuesday. Just you watch.
Yep.
They're gonna do a Sunday release just to
on Memorial Day weekend. I wouldn't put it past them. Okay, so God, guys. We are into our discussion topic before the half-hour mark. It's a Mythos Busters first. Woo. Yay.
Wow.
So now let's pick back up all those things we were talking about before about the Forgotten Age. So let's talk a little bit about the investigators specifically. I know we've talked a little bit about them in each of their preview articles as they've come out. But now that we've got our hands on them and we see the cards that come in that pack, what are you guys feeling? Anyone sticking out to you as fun and or powerful? More so than others?
Well,
take it, Ian. I haven't played this. Go ahead.
I talked about it a little bit already, but Leo surprised me. How strong he was in solo specifically. Like I had a feeling he would be in multiplayer just because allies are strong. So if you can get more out there, you're going to be strong. But yeah, he tends to so far be a pretty good solo investigator.
Well, and who would have called that
really
he was just off-class rogue? Like, that's the last thing that everyone...
Yeah.
It's like the last thing everyone was trying to guess. Like, everyone was like, oh, he's Guardian, but he can take, like, up to level 2 non-unique allies, and blah, 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 blah,
right.
blah. And he's just off-class
or
rogue.
Seeker allies or something. Yeah.
Which is fine. That's cool. That gives him access to some pretty sweet cards.
Yeah, especially because a lot of people, before we knew, it was like, well, allies are good, but how is he going to pay for allies? They're expensive, especially the Guardian ones. And he has rogue access. Never mind.
I also love the idea, though, that he's got rogue access with 1 agility.
Yeah. Well, the fun thing with that is because, there are some rogue cards that let you get away without doing agility tests, like elusive, of course. So I have that in his deck, and so even though his agility is horrible, he could barely limp along, he can still get out of some situations.
Yeah, I've gone through and actually built my first deck for each of these investigators. So actually, what allies did you end up going with in your level 0 build?
In my level 0, I have Beat Cop and Guard Dog, both of them, and then also Leo DeLuca. So I'm running 6 copies of allies so far. But once I upgrade, that exact loadout might change.
See, yeah, okay, I'm 2 out of 3 with you. Instead of Leo DeLuca, I was going to try out Venturer, just because I don't know, I'm going to try it out. It seems expensive for what it is, but I must try it before I judge. Has anyone tried Venturer?
Yeah, yet? I have not. That seems like a card that maybe Nick will like, so he can load up the shotgun.
Blind look at Blind look at Venturer, because this is you mentioned earlier. This is like your first time seeing a lot of these. What do you think of that?
What card?
Venturer.
Venture. I'm literally looking up on Arkham DB.
Venturer. Venturer.
Ace Venturer.
Jesse the Body Venturer.
That's the correct answer from Minnesota. I can't believe I didn't come up with that. All right.
We sure elected him.
Al.
Well, we had
Al
Schwarzenegger in my neck of the woods, so we had the Predator duo.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, an ally with supplies. That's already weird. Free action, spend one supply and exhaust. Jesse, place one supply on an asset control. Oh, I do like that. I like that it's a free action. Mm-hmm. If it were not, I would hate it. Exhaust, it makes it okay, and it also gives you a reason to play. What's the skill card with Leo on it? What's the name of that one? The Guardian skill card.
Oh, Inspiring Presence.
I was going to say Leadership, but that's the bad one. It gives you a good reason to run Inspiring Presence in your deck, so you could potentially do this a couple times. 4 cost is, well, it is a free action, so you can do it immediately when you play.
And keep in mind, for Leo, he's 3 cost and doesn't cost you an action to play.
That's true.
So that's a thing.
He's I would say a one of in some Guardians, but really, really good in Leo is kind of what I'm getting from him.
Yeah. That cost reduction in Leo is so nice that
it's huge.
Especially I had the upgraded Manatee, so he's basically putting into play for 4 is
yeah. That's
really
good.
Okay, so I'm sad that Scott's not here. Actually, hang on. I'll hang on to that one for when we actually start talking about the Guardian cards. Ursula, my gal Ursula, damn is she fun. I honestly don't know if I'm good enough to play her, because you kind of have to be really strategic about when you evade, when you bother to burn your I've got a plan, that sort of thing, but god damn it isn't fun to just bounce around the board and get clues as you go.
Yeah, I don't know, it's I feel like she's almost would be at her full powers even in other campaigns. Like I need to try her in Carcosa and
can you imagine her in Midnight Mass?
Dunwich? Yeah. Or the core. Like, not that she's not good in Forgotten Age, but it's almost like that's just because of how those scenarios operate without spoiling anything, that it makes it a tad difficult for her, at least in solo. But I feel like other campaigns, she would just kind of blitz through them. It's that action compression just makes her super fast.
Which I was just looking real quick, but 3 of the 5 investigators we got in this box are action compression. So that's actually really exciting, because that's my favorite thing.
It turns out that's like the most powerful type of effect in the game. Is no matter what any Netrunner click economy apologist will tell you, an action is the most valuable currency in the game. It does not equal other things equally.
For sure. Well, the thing about the investigators in this box compared to... we talked before about how Carcosa was kind of like not as solo friendly for the investigators. You know, with people like Yorick and Mark that weren't quite as friendly for that. But this box... all of them can potentially hold their own solo, which is nice.
And then I think... Has anyone tried Calvin yet? He's... Like, I'm excited to try him, but I'm also kind of terrified.
Terrible card. Why did they ever print that? Absolutely
Quiet
awful.
Facebook.
And Reddit. And BGG.
Yeah. I have not tried him yet. I was very excited for him, and I still am excited, but it's like I'm kind of working my way up to it. And I feel like it's going to be similar to Ursula, where he might be better for other campaigns than Forgotten Age, actually. But we'll see. I'll try it and see how it goes.
I feel like he'll be pretty good in Carcosa for horror reasons.
Yeah, I don't think you'll have any trouble stacking up the horror in Carcosa. Father Mateo is one that's really interesting to me, because I haven't tried him yet, but I've heard some rumblings in our Discord that he's been doing really well for various people. Yep. And the reason why that's interesting to me is because before the box came out, like when the Mateo article came out, he got the most lukewarm reception possible. Like, people are just like, whatever, he's boring, not gonna play him. And then a lot of people now are proclaiming his power. So he's definitely on my list to try.
Man, when you pop his ability, it feels good. I didn't play him, but my first playthrough of The Forgotten Age was with my sister and her boyfriend. I played Ursula, he played Mateo, and then she was playing Finn. Oh man, there was one time in the second scenario we were just up against it. He just went all out to swing at this enemy. Missed it. Like he had shriveling and just like so much committed to this one test. Tentacle came out. Oh, and he hadn't popped his ability yet. So he was like, oh, well, nope. And then...
Nice.
Yeah, God, I don't know. I'm excited to try Mateo out. He seems quietly powerful.
Yeah, I think maybe part of the lukewarm reception is that all of us who hadn't yet gotten our hands on Forgotten Age box didn't realize how many tools of like chaos big bag manipulation we were going to get, which kind of plays into what he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, can we talk about Dark Prophecy for a second?
Yeah.
Oh, that is one of my favorite mystic effects to come out in a good long while. Have you played with it at all yet?
I have not, because I haven't touched any mystics since I got Forgotten Age, but soon. Mateo's next on my list, actually.
It's so cool to be able to get 2-3 over a test. You look at your bad stuff tokens and you kind of see okay, what's the worst case scenario? If you've got a Defiance, like in Carcosa, it would be so easy because you're like, all right, well, if I get a Skull, I'll succeed. If I get the other token, I will Defiance this right now, and then you're just in such a good place. And then the best part is if you don't find bad stuff, you just get the best token out of the lot, and you're pulling 5 of them, so chances are there's one there that's going to succeed. So,
yeah, it's such a. I also love how Jam is finally getting his due, especially with a card like Dark Prophecy, which is just calling out for him.
Yes.
But for a long time, he's been maligned.
It's lucky for Jim.
Yeah. But finally, it's kind of with all this chaos bag manipulation stuff coming out, which is what he needed. He's kind of in that same kind of type of mystic as Mateo. That now people are finally. Excited about Jim and talking about how powerful he can be.
Again, another just quietly powerful mystic. Same thing with Akachi. Akachi's ability isn't flashy, but goddamn, it makes her efficient.
Yeah, definitely. What gator did we not talk about yet?
Finn?
Oh, my boy Finn. Can't believe I haven't talked about him yet. Yeah, so obviously I've only played him solo so far, like I mentioned. But that extra evade, particularly when you're playing campaigns that you need to do lots of evading, comes in very, very handy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, because I know we've talked about it before, but it always seems like when I play an investigator whose first instinct is to evade, your Wendy's, maybe your Skids, something like that, it always seems like I have one fewer action than I need.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that being super powerful. And his signatures, man. Finn has got good signatures.
Yeah, he does. And the fact that he gets 2 of them is really nice. I haven't put them to fantastic use yet, but that's more just kind of a circumstantial thing that I needed them more for icons or whatever because I was pressed, but...
Have you had the opportunity to play Contraband in a Finn deck?
I have not used Contraband yet. I have used another rogue card that I didn't use a ton before, which is level 0 pickpocketing. Not a card that I used a ton before, just because sometimes it felt like too much of a tempo hit, and I'm going to have to rely on evading enemies and to activate it, etc., etc.
Except for when that first evade action is essentially free.
Yep. That turns out to be pretty good, because because of that ability, I mean, with any investigator, you're going to tailor your play to take the best advantage of their ability you can. So with Finn, since he has that ability, you're going to be evading like crazy, and then you basically just get a free card out of it with pickpocketing. So sometimes rogues, you're struggling for card draw, but he does not at all.
I'll be excited to try him out. He's the first rogue since Jenny to make me go, yes, I must try him.
I know that one will scares you.
It does, but let's be fair. I just got done playing through The Forgotten Age with Ursula twice. She's got 3, and I still felt like it wasn't enough. So apparently you can just learn to play through failing willpower tests, which is just I don't understand how anyone does that.
Yeah, that I'd be interested to play Finn through Carcosa with the different horror going around. I think it'd be okay because I played Skids through it, but yeah, it'd be interesting.
Okay, so calling out individual cards. One I actually just kind of had a question on. I'm kind of sad that Scott's not here to be rules guy, but perhaps someone in the chat can be surrogate. Combat knife. So this has just kind of a simple knife fight action, and then it has a reaction when you take damage. Hang on, let me actually get the wording because this is important. So after an enemy attack deals damage to you during the enemy phase, exhaust survival knife, and you do its fight action. When it deals damage to you, is that specifically damage being placed on your survivor or on your investigator card, or could it be an ally or an asset? Is that still technically damage to you?
I know this has been discussed, so someone will probably chime in shortly in the chat, hopefully, because there's a distinction between deals damage and the other term that I can't think of right now. Basically, there's a distinction between, like, when damage... Because there's the damage calculated, then you assign it, and then it actually gets placed, and there's different terms for different steps in there.
And dealing damage is prior to it being assigned and placed? If we're diving down into the rules minutia?
Yeah, we are. Who's going to get to it first? Now there's 3 people typing.
Yeah, it looks like BD Flory says, as long as it's being dealt to you as a player, in your play area, then it triggers. So I'm gonna go ahead and trust that. I know BD Flory is kind of our general rules guru.
Those are the 2 terms: deals versus assigns. So deals is just any damage incoming, and assigns that's the one that actually cares about where it's getting placed.
Well, guys, I was unfortunately applying the Grim rule, and I have been fighting with a very dull survival knife this whole time. So that's really good, because holy cow, that goes with Guard Dog, that goes with... God, that's going to be an amazing mark card. Holy God.
Yeah, because then you just soak it up on your Guard Dog, it deals out of damage, and you get a fight action.
At +2 and an extra damage? Oh my God, okay.
Yeah.
You still my heart.
It just really kind of is... We talked before about how there's not really tanks in this game because you just want to kill stuff before it ever attacks you. But we're actually starting to get to a place where you can have a legit tank who is maybe like waiting until the enemy phase to do this kind of absorbing and striking back type stuff.
Or how about Heroic Rescue? Like, that's 3 damage assuming you hit this fight. So if you remember, Heroic Rescue is kind of like Feint. When an enemy is attacking someone else, you take the attack and then deal damage back to the enemy, and then attack it with this. Yep, we've got some fun, really, really tanky abilities. I'm digging it.
Yeah, I'm liking that. I have this in my Leo. I haven't made a ton of use out of it so far, but I definitely like having that option. And you know, he's another possible candidate for this because he has his ally army, so you shouldn't have too much trouble like soaking up attacks and taking that approach.
So another one...
In theory.
Yeah, anyway. Right, in theory. Another one I want to call attention to that I really like, I don't know if it's good, but I know I really like it, is Reliable. So that's the level 1 upgrade where it's a quick event that you attach to an item asset you control, and when you're resolving a triggered ability on the attached asset, you get +1 to each of your skills. So that's pretty cool, especially for those few assets that have different stat tests on them depending on what you're trying to do.
Yeah. So and even just something simple like you have a +2 machete now or something like that isn't bad, because that's not going to run out of ammunition.
I don't think we have anyone who can do it now, but I really like the idea of someone being able to put this on like one of the translated relics or grotesque statue. So when you pop a grotesque statue charge, not only are you seeing 2 tokens, but you're also +1 to whatever skill you happen to be doing. We're going to get someone who can play that eventually, and it's going to be cool.
Yeah, the way it's worded leaves it open for some interesting timing stuff and what it applies to and not. But yeah.
Yeah, because if you... say you throw this on lockpicks, which is something that Skids can do, Leo can do... I'm out. But anyway, if you throw this on lockpicks, then you get +2 bonus to your lockpicks test because
because it's all of your skills.
I feel like there's fun things to be done with this card.
Yeah,
little cheap, fast 1 XP card. I like it.
Well, I really like this upgrade thing. It's something I talked about a while back that I wanted us to see us get attachments that attach to our assets and do cool modifications to them, and this definitely seems like the first foot in that door, basically.
I like Voltron builds in general in card games, and especially with competitive card games, it seems really hard for those decks to usually work. So I don't know. I like that it's much more a thing, and at least it was in Lord of the Rings. It seems to be here in Arkham, where just kind of building things up, and I don't know. I've always kind of liked that archetype. This is definitely in that direction.
One card that I've gotten a lot of use of so far, at least from Ursula, is Dr. Ellie Horowitz, our newest secret ally. For those who don't remember, basically when she comes into play, then you search your top 9 cards for a relic and attach it to her, meaning Ellie. And then the nice thing is that relic that's under Dr. Ellie does not take up any slots. So you're getting a couple things. You're getting the tutoring of relics, and then you're also getting the fact that it doesn't take up a slot.
You're getting a horror soak.
And a horror soak, yeah. not to be overlooked.
And probably more than that whenever whatever relic she gets is used up or no longer useful, then you can take damage in horror again. Like any ally.
Yeah, so
it's not really
so you
special
can
to her. I was just saying it.
It's added value, I guess.
So have you played the Ursula relic deck? I built a copy of it. I don't know what the best copy is.
I have. I like it for flavor more than efficiency. Like, if you're going the most optimal build, then because the relics you can access, it's not like it really like plays along with what she's doing, like the Chthonian Stone and the even grotesque statue, which is great. But those aren't the type of things that are necessarily like, oh, this is an Ursula card. Like it's doing what she wants to be doing. But I do like the theme of it, that she's this treasure hunter and she's acquiring all these ancient relics and using them. So I'm like, whatever, forget optimal build. I'm just gonna go with the theme of it, and it is nice pulling out a grotesque statue with Dr. Ellie for sure.
Yeah, and it's a little weaker in the lower levels, but I think once you're able to afford like your keys of these, then all of a sudden. That deck can get into like battle cruiser mode right quick. Yeah.
I mean, it's not too surprising that some of the most powerful cards are relics, and so being able to pull them out definitely having a way to reliably access them, especially the ones you spend XP on. Like, I think we've all had the situations of you pay all this XP for something and then you never see it. But Dr. Ellie dramatically raises the possibility that you're actually going to see the freaking thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not bitter.
So one thing that might perhaps be good for her later in the campaign when we see what the hell it does is the Ancient Stone, the unidentified secret card we get in this cycle, it looks like. So that one's there's so many things going on here. So you have to pay an XP for it, which is a new one. So not only is it you have to go through the trouble of identifying it, you have to pay XP to get it in your deck to begin with. So I am really interested to see what these turn out to be, because that is an ask.
Yeah.
And also, there's the thing where you actually record in parentheses how well you do at the test to identify it.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So I wonder if you hit the test on the nose and you don't succeed it by much, whether it's even going to be worth taking whatever the identified stone does. I wonder what that variable is going to affect. Like charges, maybe a stat bonus.
Yeah, it's one of those things that blind is rough to invest a lot of time or resources into it, but later we'll have a good idea. Mm-hmm. Some of the other relics for Dr. Ellie that are really interesting are the one I did use it for is I upgraded to the discs of Itzamna for Ursula, because I was having enemy issues, and the fact that she just pulls those out, and since it's not taking up a slot, you can just pop it whenever you need to. Jim can use it to get his trumpet if you're running like a multiplayer build and you really want that trumpet. Jim's trumpet is a relic.
God damn those Dunwich investigators.
Yeah, that deck building is still very powerful.
So ridiculous.
The gold pocket watch, which is the key example, that costs 8 XP. You want to make sure you get it. So,
that's a cool one to get with her, because then you pop it and then you can soak more damage in horror, as previously mentioned. I am a giant fan. I don't know if you've tried this one yet, of Miss Sevrilia.
I have not.
That is a trick that is very much appreciated in certain mystics. That extra move action is so important, because there'll be those times where you get piled up with 2 or more enemies just at the wrong time. And the fact that you not only evade the enemy that you're targeting, but then move away with whatever enemies are engaged with you.
Yeah.
It's such a nice little slippery trick to have.
Well, that's kind of like that was one of the weak spots on the toolbox of Mystics. Like, they had Blinding Light, but it was one-time use, and it's not getting you away.
And the good one costs 2 XP.
Right. This one is repeatable, and it does the important part of getting you out of dodge, too. Mm-hmm.
Yep, it was definitely a blind spot for Mystics, so I'm glad we have it. The only problem now is that you've got to decide between Rite of Seeking or Mists for your second arcane slot.
Right.
I'd be interested to see if we have a Mystic that can run without shriveling in solo. And I have a feeling that if that's true, Mists is a big part of why that's true.
Yeah. That's one potential advantage that the more investigaty Mystics have, like a Marie, or even like Jim and Mateo. They're at least not a 2 intellect, that maybe they can get away with not running Rite of Seeking and going Mist Shrivel and then relying on other stuff to investigate.
Now, can I tell you a card that I am just dumbfounded by and fascinated by?
Sure.
Can you guess? I want you to guess. What card?
Okay. Dumbfounded and fascinated. You're
overthinking it.
Is it? Okay, now I'm overthinking my overthinking now, because I was just about to choose. Is it the Survivor ally?
It is! Yaudel, the last son of Eztli. God damn it, that requires so much brain space to pronounce that correctly. I'm just going to call it Etzli. and just knowingly mispronounce it, just like those people who call it like Chipotle.
Yeah.
Exley.
I know that all too well.
So anyway, that ally I am just so fascinated with. It's like, it seems cool. I can't wait to try him out. He seems like like Wendy's best friend, right?
Yes, for several different reasons. One, because you get the skill bonus. Oh, the interesting part is that second. Okay, so for people who don't have the card handy, basically the first ability is you exhaust them and you get a bonus to your skill during a skill test equal to the skill icons that are in the top of your discard pile. And then the second ability is you discard the top card of your deck. That second one is actually interesting, that you can just straight up discard the top card of your deck, limit once per turn. But the reason that's interesting is because it's not really limited other than obviously the once per turn. But by not limited, I mean there's not like a condition on it. Like you just straight up do it because it's a free trigger.
There are some Hail Mary rescues that ability is going to be responsible for.
Right.
Also, I really like this in Agnes to, or any Mystic, I suppose. Are there any other Mystics who can take him? Can Marie take level 1 Survivor cards?
No, it's just level 0.
So Agnes is the only character who can access him right now from Mystic. Anyway, Scrying plus him seems like a good combo, is ultimately where I was going with that.
Yeah, or if you charisma Alyssa and this guy, and then you could just never have a weakness because you see the weakness coming and just discard it. It's a lot of stuff to invest in it, but it would be interesting to never have a weakness again.
Yeah. Okay, so now for more reasonable play, like, he seems pretty good, right? Because especially for someone like Calvin, or who else do you end up packing a fair amount of actual skill cards? There's that Ashcan Pete Duke build that's like so many skill cards.
Mm-hmm. Like the desperate skills would be great for that, obviously.
Yeah, so like you have those turns where you are either fighting an enemy or you're trying to get a location cleared off, and you're just taking a couple of the same action. Like, you throw down a perception, you get your +2 for that test, you succeed hopefully, and then you investigate again, exhaust Yaudel for the boost again. Like, it just seems.
Yeah,
I must try him. And for
people like Wendy and Ashcan who can discard a card at will, then it gives you more control over what that card is. But the nice thing for survivors too is they tend to have some of those skill cards that have several different icons on them, so that can give you some flexibility of. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's a strong ally. He's giving you a lot of bonuses over the course of a game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think if
you build correctly,
as long as your deck is built with him in mind, I don't see.
Yes,
I don't see why he's bad at all.
Okay, so what I miss?
Yaudel.
Yaudel. Yep.
Which was the name of the female alien in episode 1. Who was the opposite of Yoda? Same species as Yoda.
Yeah,
look it up.
That checks out.
I think that was spelled Yaddl.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead and try to pronounce it differently.
Yaddle.
Shut up.
Sorry.
Backpack is the last one I'm going to mention. I tried this in my Ursula Relic build. And she's also running magnifying glasses and flashlights. I found it to be better than I expected, but not as good as I want it to be. I feel like you need a lot of items in your deck for this to be really worth it.
Well, it's the fact that you got to search the top 6 as opposed to, like, play them from hand or, you know, even a larger search. Like, it's pretty limited. Like, it's a good, like, 6 is a good number, but how many do you usually get?
Yeah, I've snagged 3 like 2 times in 4 scenarios, so it's not terrible, but most of the time I'm grabbing 1 or 2. And that's with a deck that is like artifacts and items are most of what it does.
Mm-hmm.
So It'll be interesting if there's a deck out there that I don't know. Do you think there's going to be? Okay. So think about this. Is sleight of hand worth a backpack, or is backpack worth a sleight of hand? Like if you're trying to set up, and you just want as many actions as possible, sleight of hand in a backpack, expand your hand essentially, and then play whatever you get down, and then pull it back, and then play it down again, later to dig deeper. Is that worth it? I don't know. Sleight of hand is so good on weapons.
No. I don't think that. No. It seems like. I mean, as someone who barely uses sleight of hand,
the audible trepidation in your voice tells me no.
Because it feels like you're doing a lot of like cardboard shuffling without actually getting a big effect. You know what I mean? That's literally just
which is my kind of jank normally.
Sure.
My only issue with this card is I have notoriously bad luck with tutoring effects like this. Like a very good tale in Lord of the Rings. My bad luck is legendary with that. But I had a recent run with Windy and Flares where I whiffed on 2 Flares in a row without an ally in sight when I had plenty of allies in the deck.
Flare goes 9 down, right?
Yeah. So that gives you an idea.
Yeah, I mean the thing is and again, I feel like this is not great in the early campaign, but when your deck is full of Itzamnas and Keys of Ease, and you've actually got fairly powerful items in your deck just waiting to get ripped out.
Yeah,
I feel like this is better mid to late campaign.
I would agree with that.
I would love to see an upgraded version of this that digs a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably pay 1 or 2 XP for something that goes to, 9 to 12 cards.
9.
We'll
2 experience for a 9 would be great.
And then you can attach 4 to it or something. Or you get an extra hand slot because it's got a cup holder. No?
I could see it. Maybe. We'll see. One card that I've gotten a lot of use out, more than I thought I would at first, is the Tooth of Esley. Speaking of relics,
Etzley.
This is the one that gives you +1 will and +1 agility while resolving an ability on a treachery card. And if you succeed at the test, then you get to draw a card. Which it turns out those stats get tested a lot for treacheries, so. That little boost helps.
It's good. I like that one a lot too, especially when you can whip it out with a backpack or an Ellie. A Dr. Horowitz. Give it the old
and
Dr.
it is
Horowitz.
not unique, so if you have a way of having another accessory slot, then you could have 2 out, like Dr. Ellie provides.
Yep. And non-story spoiler, but it turns out this is really good in Forgotten Age. Play it. Really, really good.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So Nick, I know you had to sit out for a fair amount of that. Any particular cards that jumped out at you that you wanted to just brush past?
I have seen the ones that I have been here to discuss, so no.
Okay, so then the last thing I want to give it up to before we move on to just very light talking about the encounters is the new common basic weaknesses that we got for the pool. They did some cool
we should talk about
things
those.
with Dark Pact and the Bell Tolls. No, Doomed is first, right?
Yeah, Doomed is first. The Bell Tolls comes later.
Okay, yeah. So Doomed is the basic weakness. That upgrades to Accursed Fate, and the Bell Tolls, which are both just regular weaknesses. They're not basic.
Yeah, so these are weaknesses that we have had the chance to upgrade, and now we have weaknesses that upgrade on us.
I kind of like it, though. Like, this Dark Pact, I actually pulled it in my most recent campaign, so I'll be interested to see how that evolves. But it's an interesting...
I like how it has the griefy potential that you could deal 2 damage to Investigator at your location.
Yeah. I mean,
You're just like, come here.
It's just too bad that it doesn't have. It probably couldn't have like peril, like to the point where you couldn't talk about drawing it.
You definitely can talk it over.
Yeah.
If you're so inclined.
Yeah, because as written, you can game it out and be like, oh, Leo's got so much health, just like deal it to me, I'm fine.
Or you can just shortcut them to your location and do it.
But then the price of failure is the upgrade one, and that one, when that comes out, 2 damage, 2 horror, a doom on the agenda.
Yeah, 2 damage, 2 horror, and a doom.
Yep, that's nasty. And then you go back to Dark Pact. So, I like it though. It's a really cool mechanic and something that was completely unexpected. Like everything else, I didn't see particulars coming, but nothing else kind of jumped out at me. Like, whoa, they're bending the format of the game. But the upgrading weaknesses is a new one.
Yeah. So we should talk about Doom because this one has gotten a little bit of controversy in various quarters.
I wonder why.
This is the one when you first draw it, you take a horror. Basically record that you drew it, and then the next time you draw it, then it's going to get replaced by a Cursed Fate, and then so on until eventually you get to the Bell Tolls, which has one of the most interesting game texts ever, which is, the hour of your demise has arrived. You are killed. That's it. You are straight up dead, and it has a picture of a grave waiting for you on it.
I love the idea of someone planning a campaign out where they're going to take Charon's Obel, and then they draw Doomed. And it's like, god damn it. Just super redlining it.
So the reason I say it's controversial is because some people are not fans of this card because of the way in which it can just straight up kill you, and you might not have control over it. When I first saw it, I was kind of like, I don't know how often that's actually going to trigger. And then I happened to draw it as my weakness in Ursula, which is a very draw-heavy build. And by the end of Scenario 2, I was already 2 steps away from death. So I had reached the point where Cursed Fate was in my deck. And, it was basically if I drew it again and then the Bell Tolls, that was it. At the end of Scenario 2. Part of the reason that happened is because even when I first looked at it, I was like, well, it goes on the bottom of your deck, but then you run into encounter cards that shuffle your deck. And that is what happened to me. And, next thing you know, so I restarted that campaign, actually. That's the first time I've ever done anything like that, because I was just like, I'm going to invest my time into this campaign, and Ursula's going to be dead by, like, Scenario 3 or 4. That seems kind of pointless to me, so I just restarted it. So I love the idea behind it. I love the story potential. As a game mechanic, I think for some investigators, this is just NPE, just too much of a negative play that I'd rather just restart the campaign and pick something else.
It's weird to say this, and granted, again, I haven't touched the cards, so take my opinion with a grain of salt, but I almost wish that the final effect was the most interesting of the 3 and not the least. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of feel like it should have built to something and not built to just boom. That's it. Yeah. You know what I mean? As weird as that sounds. Because the whole mechanic behind it is interesting. I love the fact that you have a 3-layer weakness.
Yeah.
But
I really wish that the last one was shocking in a good way and not like,
I kind of wish
shocking like
there was some mechanic that was like, or like a test or something that was really hard to pass, but you still had some interaction with it. And even if you did pass, then the Bell Tolls is still sitting in your deck for the next scenario, so you got a plan for it. Yeah.
That would have been interesting if it was some, like, super ultra tough Reaper enemy that is just gonna, like, wreck you, but it's hunting you around the board at that point. Something like that.
Yeah, that would be really cool, yeah. I wouldn't want just a straight test card, but something that manipulates the board state or is a consistent threat once you draw it. Like, I don't know, just, like, being killed, like, I get it.
I want some agency in that happening.
Yeah.
Well, Yeah, to a degree, but for me, it's just boring. Like you're like, okay, you know what I mean? And again, I think that the third one should have been the most interesting of the three, personally.
Yeah, so there's kind of two sins going on there, which is, for me, I actually like this story aspect, like I said, but it's just like with the Dark Pact and the, its accompanying Price of Failure, it's, you have control over what's going to happen there, for the most part, like most weaknesses, but this one is just, your control is basically, do you have any tools in your deck to scry your deck, to avoid it? Oh, you don't? Okay, cool. You're dead. If you do, if you're a mystic, then you can potentially work around it because you can, Alyssa, you can do whatever and avoid it. But otherwise, you're kind of in trouble. You're relying on luck, basically. You don't really have control over whether you're going to draw it or not. It's just the only other way you can do it is just, I'm not going to draw anymore, which is, kind of taking away part of playing the game.
Because who doesn't like to draw cards in a card game?
What if it gave you like 2 physical trauma? Or like 3 physical trauma? You know what I mean?
Sure. Like halfway to death for some investigators.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one that's just kind of there for a wild and wacky experience. If you're really looking to experience a campaign and you're one of those people who's not going to be able to play through it 1.5 billion times like we are, no one's going to judge you for throwing that one back and picking a different weakness. Just want to toss that out there.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you don't like it, then just restart the I mean, it's just equivalent to, I started a new campaign and I drew a different weakness.
Yeah, it's like, concede, next game.
Yep, exactly. And if you do like it, then like maybe you're playing a different kind of campaign where it's like investigators are expendable and they're going to get replaced, and that's kind of how you're going to have to approach it.
But I do love the design space that that they're playing with this. Like I'm okay with the first one being mediocre or lukewarm or whatever, as long as that means that we're going to continue to see this be expanded upon. Yeah,
I love the idea that you tossed out there, Nick, of the idea of like a monster that's really weak in the early campaign but slowly grows if you don't kill it.
Yeah. I love that idea that Ian threw out as well. That wasn't me, Sean.
That was Ian? God damn it. Sorry, Ian.
That was Ian.
Good. I like that idea. I hope it happens.
Or it could be like Final Destination, where it just keeps making the test harder and harder because death wants you.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting.
Anyway, we're not in the business of redesigning cards, though.
No.
So let's...
Well...
not in the business of it. We're in
not
the pleasure of it.
That's true.
Yeah,
we're the pleasure of redesigning cards. So, Ian, let's talk lightly, non-narrative spoilery about the general experience of playing through the Forgotten Age box. The one thing I will say is that, as expected, agility and evading gains value in this one. What I expected before going in is coupled with that willpower would kind of take a back seat and it wouldn't be as important. And that does not reflect my actual experience. I don't know if you can confirm or deny that one, Ian. I feel like willpower is just as important, if not more so, because many of the things that are going to require you to test willpower also require you to take an action to do it, so you're tossing away actions if you don't get it.
Yeah, it's will is still a thing, I mean, which is not surprising because they're not just going to completely just forget about it. I will say the emphasis on how I'm trying to dance around spoilers, but the emphasis on how the encounter deck attacks you is much different than Carcosa. Mm-hmm. Like the things it's trying to do to you.
Right. Kind of like how with extracurricular activities was when we saw they were trying to mill you. Mm-hmm. Like this encounter deck has its own strategy. I'm guessing from what you're saying.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to some interview at some point we had, which is the cooperative games, both Lord of the Rings and the Arkham, the way they design it is kind of the idea of they design the encounter decks to be like a player, and it has their strategy of how it's trying to beat you.
I believe that was Nate French in our first interview with Nate and Matt.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
That sounds about right. What have you thought of the exploration mechanic?
It is, it's fun. I like how it changes things around. It definitely makes for a different pace of the game and makes for a different way of approaching it. And
it also makes moving kind of a nerve-wracking experience sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely changes a lot of calculus of how you approach things in solo, especially, but also in multiplayer too, I imagine, and in just the order that you do things.
So now I forget, is the whole exploring thing, is that a scenario specific mechanic, or is that
it's
campaign wide, or
it's a keyword that's defined by this campaign. So far, both scenarios use it. I don't know if it's going to continue into the cycle, but
sure.
Exploring the jungle and then eventually exploring the location you hit after that.
Right. Yeah.
Being super.
I think the biggest. The biggest thing about this box is the difficulty. Definitely my initial experience, at least, I thought Curtain Call was a kind of a slap in the face, which it was. But I would say Forgotten Age was more of a slap in the face. I have played it more, and so I feel like I'm kind of getting the hang of the strategies a bit. So so I think it's gonna take a while. I can't give like a definitive this is how it compares until some time has passed, because that's what happened with Carcosa 2. And the reason I still think Curtain Call is hard is I know the strategies to that, and I still lose that one quite often. So we'll see if that still is the case with Forgotten Age. But first blush, and not just me, lots of people throughout Facebook and Discord have commented on the difficulty of this box. So I think there's been a difficulty increase for sure, I would say.
Yeah. And okay, so and we'll probably get deeper into these weeds when we get there. And it's not spoiling anything to say that, hey, the Forgotten Age is a story-wise an expedition that you're going on. I think perhaps that the uptick in hardness is because Matt wanted it to be kind of, I don't know if it was like developer headcanon or if he just wanted it to be a more prevalent story, that the expedition actually fails. I think you were the one who put that one in my head, Ian, that it's kind of Lovecrafty to go on an expedition and just get reamed by it, and then not everyone makes it back. The ones that do, who are kind of scarred and scraped up from it. And I could see that being a thing because both the scenarios and the interlude hit hard and fast. So
that's interesting. I didn't even consider that. Like, I was totally just like, well, we have a whole nother cycle of player cards that we have at our availability now, so of course he has to make it harder. Like, and I was thinking totally from game mechanics.
That totally might be it, but I'm holding out a little bit of hope for this other explanation, because honestly, on standard, this is a little uncomfortably difficult for the game to just be at a base point for me personally.
Yeah,
I want to play hard when I want more of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. There's a couple things I'm basing it on, which I can talk more about when we get spoilery, but I don't have any like firm evidence by it. It's just some things that I was looking and thinking, it's such a trope in the Mythos stuff now of the failed expedition that maybe that's kind of the intention. And it made me think of Lord of the Rings in the second cycle, like in the deluxe box, you go into Moria and that expedition actually fails. Which isn't directly stated, but it's kind of... It's
implied.
I'm not going to go too much into it, but it's implied. And then the cycle, you're actually the second expedition. So I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but I'm just thinking that maybe the intention was that this was intentionally supposed to be punishing.
So gird your loins, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Consider them girded.
Gird them well.
It's so weird that the last campaign and this campaign both have a first scenario that is just like a super rough one. Like, that's...
Oh, well.
It's an interesting design choice.
I'd say the second one's even rougher, but...
Yeah.
For Forgotten Age.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Great.
That one... Okay, I'm very excited when we finally get around to talking about that one in depth and spoilerific, but that one's got some interesting things going on.
Okay.
Yeah, we're dancing hardcore around the spoilers weekend, but yeah, the supply. But I've had fun with it. The difficulty did catch me off guard, and I did do my Ursula campaign over again, like I mentioned, because of the doomed craziness and also the difficulty. I was like, I'm just gonna keep playing this scenario until I start getting a hang of how it goes before I subject all my other campaigns to this insanity. But yeah, I've had fun with it for sure. It's just kind of getting used to what it's doing. The exploration and the supplies are all well done, I think, to get you in the exploration mindset and expedition. I've been using the Mummy soundtrack as my background to play.
I just watched that. I literally turned the Mummy on while I was sleeving the set.
Nice.
And we'll return to that thought when we get into the spoilers for that in a later episode.
And here I thought you weren't that big of a Tom Cruise fan, Sean.
Oh god, no.
I still haven't bothered.
Are you buying into their dark universe?
I still haven't bothered to even see the new Mummy. Just because, like...
You and the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It wasn't a movie that needed a remake. Like, the original Mummy was not... I mean, it was kind of ambitious with the CGI at the time, but it did it fairly tastefully. It's aged, but it's still a really solid popcorn movie. Love the Mummy.
Yeah.
The reason why it needed a reboot is because they needed to establish the first film in the Dark Universe. That's also going to consist of, like, the werewolf and the Invisible Man and that all that.
Get a new Hammer Studios series.
Pretty much, yeah. So.
Yeah. I don't want that.
Nobody
I don't
does.
need gritty monsters. Monsters are supposed to be a little fantastical.
I'm okay with gritty ones, but not in this regard.
I'll look forward to Gritty Wolfman, directed by Christopher Nolan.
Gross. No.
He's the wolf we need, but not the one we deserve right now.
I'll go for it if the Wolfman has the Bane voice going for him. Then I'll be on board.
I was born in the
wilderness. Nearly adopted the fur.
Okay. So I think that wraps it up for the Forgotten Age. Unless you had any other thoughts you wanted to get out there in the world, Ian.
No, I think that's a good first impressions.
Fair enough. All right, so let's move it on into a little bit of hotline catch up. So I'm gonna pause. We got another voicemail from James, who had called in previously. James, we've received it. It's been processed. We're probably actually going to turn that into a discussion topic. So the first question here is from Johnny, which I'll go ahead and play for you now.
Hey guys, this is Johnny from Texas. Just wondering, now that Forgotten Age is out, which single faction do you think would make the best group? You know, we've got 4 for every class now, plus a couple extras if you have the books. So, which works best? Guardian, Rogue, Seeker, Mystic, Survivor? Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks.
Mystic, it's Mystic.
Guardian?
Rogue?
No.
So let's get it out of the way. I feel like Seeker's the worst. I feel like Seeker's at the bottom of the list because they have some amazing investigators, but I feel like as a group they're going to struggle with big enemies.
Yeah, because they're all trying to do the same thing. And they all share a lot of the tools that let them do other things. So
only so many strange solutions to go around.
Right. Yeah, I would agree that Seeker is not.
Right, and I think we have to imagine this is in a world where everyone can build with 2 copies and everyone's got a deck. But even still, I think
ideal decks.
That's going to be a rough early campaign, and if they get through to the late campaign, maybe. Because then your strange solutions and all your other tricks come out. But okay, so I honestly think Mystics stand a really good chance. Because...
That's surprising.
No, because Mystics can do everything. And though the individual Mystic is a little beholden to luck and getting the right cards down at the right time, if you spread that risk across an entire team, then you're
then it's 4 times the risk.
Diversifying your risk. That's not how stats work.
So, are you proposing that our next Iron Man we get rid of our ideas and instead do 4 Mystics?
I am now.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if I'm playing Mystic, then I'm probably going to end up playing Daisy.
DQ. Though I think Rogues and Guardians do also stand a pretty good chance, and honestly, I think Survivors are in a pretty good place too as a team.
Survivors would be really interesting because they're also different. That it would be interesting trying to figure out what niches they occupy.
Well, Shen brings up an interesting point. So let's apply this particular question here. Which faction do you think would get hit hardest by the unique rule? In that, they have like a clutch ally or unique cards. Seeker again. Everyone's gonna want Milan.
Well, I was gonna say I think we ruled Seeker out entirely. So.
Sorry, Seekers. We love you. I want to say either Mystic or Survivor is going to get hit hardest because honestly, they just don't have many non-unique allies.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Is like Guardian, two of their good allies are non-unique, like right out, and that's not including Venturer, who I totally forgot about till just now. Like, you know what I mean? Like Guardian has the most, besides Seeker. Like Seeker has really good non-unique allies too, with Art Student and Lab Assistant. But
it gets better when you have some XP to spend, though, especially if you're Rogue. Guardian picks up a few in XP. I suppose a Quinn Eye is another one for Survivor. Huh. That's interesting. You think we're ever going to take on, we'll do Iron Man on Saturday and we'll do faction challenges on Friday at Arkham Knights?
Maybe one day.
What with experience, what Guardian unique allies are there with experience? Just Brother Xavier and
I suppose Beat Cop is non-unique.
Yeah, he's non-unique.
Yeah.
And you're not going to put Bro X in every deck.
And what other unique Guardian allies are there?
That's...
Yeah, I think Guardian does pretty well for the unique rule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so the thing, though, is that Guardians, as a group, they're going to rely on Roland and Carolyn, like, exclusively for clue getting. I mean, I suppose Zoe can maybe...
Yeah.
God, frickin' Dunwich Gator. Zoe can run, Drawn to the Flames or Rites of Seeking.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But you wouldn't, like... You wouldn't do double of those in Zoe. You might do one.
Right.
Like, because if you have Roland and Carolyn, then that should be all the cloovering you need, I would assume.
God, you think so? You think... Carolyn's pretty well positioned, but you think
Roland is half Seeker.
Well, he is, but you think
Roland...
he can cover enough for 4-player Seeker role?
Not on his own, but that's why you have Carolyn to pick up the slack a little bit. I don't think, like, would if you're doing 4-player Guardian, would you throw Evidence in a Mark deck? Probably not.
Rarely. Very rarely.
So, I think that, well, then, let's go the other route then. Would Marie be a strong enough, well, no, because you have
4 investigators running Rite of Seeking
Yeah.
and Drawn to the Flame.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just a matter of getting
And
those
8 delves.
yes. And rogues are just quietly.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but Mystic has a pretty strong shout for it, I think, actually.
The early game is likely to be a little bit rough, but the late game for that particular, like the 4 Mystic team, like any of the 4 Mystics, like even if you don't go Marie, I feel like that late game is just going to be a storm of Mystics. So yeah, anyway. Interesting. I think we should consider that for Arkham Knights. We'll do the Iron Man on Saturday, and we'll do like some kind of faction challenge on Friday, and we can have people declare camps and whatnot.
The Rogue, I'm not they have a lot of tools that I would just be curious about the clue acceleration. Maybe people like Finn would have to take deduction, have to experiment with eavesdrop, which is the new kind of clue acceleration, but I'd have to test it to see whether they can get the clues fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And Survivors, God help them, they'll fail into it.
Talk about a wild card.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so Wendy's pretty good at getting clues, though I don't think she's got... I mean, she's I mean, you got your Survivor stuff. You've got Look What I Found.
I think Ashcan is your clover.
Ashcan can do some pretty heavy cloovering, but God, he's such a good flex too. So like, even without including anything else, just the very fact that he has Duke is amazing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the hell Calvin does. Like, he's still just such an enigma to me.
Calvin does Calvin is totally dependent on the scenarios you've played. You know what I mean? Like, scenario 3 is when you get Calvin, like, in a roll. You know what I mean? Like, 1 and 2, it's just... It's literally...
swings around by the tail or wherever the encounter deck is swinging him, and he just flails there. And
I think one thing is for sure that the Survivor would be the most interesting, like, planning that out and figuring out the different roles.
I think you would just have to go build a good Wendy deck, build a good Ashcan deck, and not be like, okay, Ashcan's cloovering, Wendy is, I don't think you could divvy up the roles. I think it would just be like, just build a Wendy deck, you know what I mean? And then bring that with Survivor. Which
would make for a really interesting play, because usually you kind of fall back on that, like, okay, I know I'm kind of the clover, so I'm going to go around, whereas this would, like, every round you're kind of pivoting and figuring out who's going to do what.
That would be very interesting to play.
All right, well, we'll have to follow up on this particular voicemail if we do ever do the faction challenge at Arkham Knights. So our second call is one that I think will warrant a little bit of discussion. This caller did not leave his name, but he poses an amazing question, so I'm excited to get to it.
Hey, what's up, Mythos Busters? So, I listened recently, I caught up on a couple episodes and listened to Burn Your Mom, and you guys were talking about the different traits and the importance, and when you got to intellect, I completely agree that it's super necessary, especially in solo, like it's probably the most important skill. I wonder if, because of where Doom awaits and similar effects, I wonder if it isn't sort of a flaw in the game that takes away from true solo play. Because it really limits the amount of characters that can legitimately do it and have a good time. It really forces your deck building from the very beginning, and in a campaign-style game where you load up your deck with all kinds of fun tricks, but then they don't work at some random point and you lose the whole campaign for it. I don't know, I personally find that sort of frustrating. And I feel like it limits the card pool that I have to choose from when I play the game, and it forces me to not play some of the things that might be more fun. I wonder what you guys think about that. Thank you for taking my call.
It's almost like this game wasn't designed for solo. Or at least parts of it.
It's a multiplayer game with solo rules. Although this plays in solo a lot better than Lord of the Rings does. So there's so much to unpack here. Honestly, this could have been its own discussion topic. So let's not get crazy with it. But I have to start out by saying I kind of agree. Like, not to the point where I'm actually angry at the game, thinking about quitting openly. Well, I openly complain a lot, but I'm not openly complaining about this. That shows you how far on my grievance list it is. But I was a little uncomfortable with how much of a squeeze there was in Carcosa anyway. I don't know how much that spirit is going to change going forward. I feel like it got slightly better in the Forgotten Age in that regard, but it's still so important.
Yeah, and with a game like this, you gotta look at the core, like the absolute basic level Arkham, and it's like, you have 3 actions, and that's your turn. And the fact that your turn is limited in action count means that adding additional players, even though it also adds additional conditions that have to be met, ultimately you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling the number of actions you get in a turn. And not only that, like he says, it allows you that freedom to explore actually using the card pool. Like, there are so many cards that I just straight up don't use because I play true solo the most. So, especially as a Guardian player, there's so many Guardian cards I never touch.
Yeah, you picked a real bad favorite class for
right?
solo.
And it pains me, and that's probably why I keep going back to Roland, because Roland shines in solo so well, because he can take yellow, and yellow is really good, and like he said, intellect is so important in solo. So again, I don't fault like the game, or I don't fault Matt for this at all, because the game is really solid and obviously I love it, but it's just a shame that now 3 cycles in, this is really kind of rearing its head. You know what I mean? Like, now that the card pool has grown to a point where we can make a solid claim like this.
I just think that intellect is in an interesting place in that, at least so far, it is one of the few stats where there's just no way around needing it sometimes. Like, if you've got a nasty enemy, there are ways around that don't require you to have a high combat value. If you hit a bad treachery, sometimes you can cancel it, sometimes you can, whatever it happens to be, but there's you can take it on the chin. A lot of treacheries aren't going to end the game. But you literally cannot advance the game in many, many cases if you don't have enough intellect to reliably and efficiently get clues. And honestly, that fact and all of the sub-meanings that brings with it, that's why I play two-handed. I'm not built for that kind of risk. I don't know what the rest of that is. You know what I mean?
I'm not necessarily on the other side of this argument, but it's not something that I necessarily. I mean, I have felt the kind of restriction of, like, especially with Carcosa, like I mentioned earlier, that there were certain investigators that I just wasn't going to be able to play solo, or at least be very successful playing them solo, and. But I think part of it is that I've kind of been trained by Lord of the Rings that there are just certain decks that I can't play solo because willpower is a thing and you need willpower to win in that game. And I kind of feel like it's similar in Arkham that I just accept it as a given that you need intellect to play, and that's just how the game was designed. That it's designed around this core mechanic of gathering clues, and intellect is how you gather clues, and so there's not really a way around it. I think things have gotten better, that we've gotten more tools. Like, it used to be a nightmare for Rogue, and now we have lockpicks and Streetwise, and Mystic have their various tools.
Of Carcosa, though.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think the issue isn't so much intellect or focus on investigating. It's these little aspects that rely on straight up intellect tests that don't allow you to use any of your tools. Like, it's almost like how I would complain in Lord of the Rings that there's immune to player card effects, which is in effect,
and that's essentially what that is.
Which doesn't let you use any card effects to affect that enemy or location. That was something that happened in Lord of the Rings, and it's kind of the analogy here that when it's just a straight up investigate test, that you have to activate that investigate test, or you have to do some kind of intellect test where you can't use your tools, then basically it's just straight up your stat versus that stat, and you can't use any of your tools in many cases. So I think that's a bigger issue for me, is just a design thing of hoping that they stay away from that, or at least minimize it so that you can kind of isolate it and just do what you need to do to pass those particular tests. Like, the parlay stuff is a good example of getting around that, because at least you can use find clothes or whatever. So if we get other tools that let us deal with it somehow.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what it gets down to, is the fact that there are just some gators and some cards that you just can't afford to play in solo. And that's fine, and that's cool that then those cards tend to really shine in multiplayer. But it is kind of unfortunate that it's not a two-way street. Like, the cards that do really well in solo, you can still play them in multiplayer because they just hold their proportionate weight. And they're still good, but it doesn't go the other way, where some of these ones that are just, like, your marks.
Yeah.
Solo mark is just a brave thing to do.
I've tried it. It's not great.
No. It's a horror show.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's not like anything that I'm willing to call a problem in the game, but it does stop me up and bum me out pretty regularly.
Yes. No, I would agree with that. It does. It is a bummer. It is a big bummer. It's something that I think with each cycle I kind of hold out hope that we'll see just like wording changes in player cards that don't... Like, the one that really stands out to me, because this is the first time I really noticed it, was when Stand Together was revealed. And then it was ruled that no, you can't play that unless you choose another investigator. Like, it's nullified. And that was when I was just like, oh no, like there's a card that's straight up I can't use if I'm playing by myself. And I know that I don't want to say I speak for, but I know that there's
for the trees.
There's a sizable fraction of the player base that was drawn to this game because it has the solo option. But
no, I think 3 out of the 4 Mythos Busters played true solo primarily. Is that accurate to say? I know Scott does.
I know Scott and I do. Ian, I feel like you are kind of split between solo and two-handed, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's about, I don't know, 60-40, something like that.
Yeah, so it's a letdown. It's something, again, that I hope that with each cycle we see an injection of cards that are just worded in a way so that they're still viable solo. Not even, like, better solo, just the fact that I can include them. But thus far, I haven't been, like, that really hasn't been happening from what I can tell so far.
Although, to be fair, for every Stand Together, well, maybe not for every Stand Together, but there are cards like Lone Wolf that are good normally, but are just straight up bonkers in solo.
Sure.
I think is it the Prophecy Foretold Guiding Stones? Guiding Stones? We'll go with that. Whatever one lets you investigate and evade at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That one, good in multiplayer, amazing in solo. So, I don't know. Hopefully, it's got to be a hard place to be, right? Because you want to be able to let all the multiplayer people do all these cool multiplayer things.
Yeah.
Without forgetting the solo players. And I imagine that's a tightrope to walk.
Well, and from my limited experience with designing fan-made stuff for this game, I can say it is. Like, it's really easy when I'm designing a scenario. I usually tend to think with, like, 2 to 3 investigators. Like, that's kind of what I imagine to be the average. Is most people are playing with 2, some people get up to 3. It seems like 4 is a little more of a rarity than what I originally thought. Whereas I guess I'm the atypical one, because I'm either true solo or I do a lot of 4-player stuff as well. So, But anyway, and I remember, like, Casey and I were talking about custom scenario stuff, and we were working on a scenario together, and I kept saying, like, well, we can't do that if we can't design a card like this if it's solo. It wouldn't work. And I remember him saying, I feel like, I can't remember the exact words he said, but it was something to the effect of, I feel like we're hamstringing ourselves if we consistently think about solo play. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you're not wrong, but
you're an asshole.
I'm like, you're not wrong, but it's like, I play solo and I want to be able to experience this scenario to a similar degree. So then it made me think, like, then we're talking about encounter cards, and that's a totally different conversation. So yeah, it's just a bummer. It's just a bummer that I can't use every card.
And I don't mind it being rounding back to intellect specifically. I don't mind it being leaned upon. Leaned is the correct word. Leaned on. But sometimes, at least in Carcosa, it felt like it was leaned on a little too hard. Because you want your Daisies and your Normans to have their Rockstar moments too, where they walk in and just, like, bang bang, take out Spires of Carcosa, and everyone else is going along their merry way. But at the same time, then you have your Where Doom Awaits Base of the Hill moments, where it's like, oh, well, I guess we're just going to be stuck here for a while. So, I don't know. It's a line to ride. But I agree, currently, the way the game sits, I wish it wouldn't lean on raw intellect as hard as it does.
So is Arkham Horror just a Seeker's game and everyone else is the supporting cast?
I mean, there's certainly one way you could look at it. I don't have good evidence to refute that statement.
Well, the Seekers aren't necessarily the strongest solo choices compared to some others, so...
I don't know if it was like that for you, Sean, but I lost Ian there.
Yeah, he's probably talking and recording on his own, and we're talking over him now. It'll be a fun editing moment for someone. Mark down the timestamp.
Alright. 146.
Ian, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, I was just mentioning that Seekers aren't necessarily the strongest solo choices, though, because they have their own enemy problems, but
Yeah.
they can be, though. Solo men
But the thing is
things.
like you can power through a scenario solo seeker.
Sneaker. That's rogues. They're solo sneakers.
Yeah. You can like most scenarios, like if you get clues fast enough, you can power through it with a seeker. Whereas like solo rogue or solo mystic is going to have a lot harder time with that. So.
I don't know. As much as a Mystic as an apologist I am, I think Rogue's in a better place now to play aggro than Mystic is.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a tough design thing because if your game is based around like of a certain victory condition, then whoever can do that victory condition most efficiently is going to be most powerful. Again, I hate to continue the Lord of the Rings drinking game, but there's a reason why the Spirit Sphere in that game is so strong, because as willpower, it can just get that done. It's the same thing. If the only way it could be different is
condition.
Yeah, the only way it could be different is if every scenario had like alternate conditions that weren't dependent on clues, but then you're totally changing the fabric of the game.
Or if there was no shroud on locations and the way you obtained clues was
by punching him.
Well, it was just whatever, like was unique to whatever the scenario or the act or whatever. Like, what if every act card had its own text saying how you obtain clues? Well, then you're taking away card space from other rules that could be on, like, it's such, like, yeah, there's no... it's... What a bummer!
Yeah. I don't know. I think one way to remedy a lot of these kind of stacking issues that we have is to add the reaction of when you would discover clues. But depending on the card you're trying to apply it to, that just straight up doesn't work. So it's a tough place to be in. And intellect is just important. It's probably the most important skill.
Yeah.
Unless you have a really consistent way to get around it.
Ultimately, it's a matter of the card pool expanding, I think. Part of the issue is we've gotten lots of alternative tools, but if a tool is... Because it's also a pace game. It's not like any class can eventually get clues if they just throw enough tests at it, right? But you run out of time. So the problem is some of the tools that classes have are slow and not fast enough. If you think of like a gravedigger's shovel that can get the job done, but is it going to do it fast enough? It may or may not. And so developing tools in the other classes that are going to be as efficient or close to it as Seeker ultimately is going to be important.
Anyway, I think we're going around in circles on this one. It's a bummer, but it is the way it is, so we're just all going to play with it. And, intellect is important. So, guys, that gets us through everything except for Tentacle Time. Of course, I'll mention again, if you have equipment, please call the Mythos Busters hotline at 203-69... Why? I used to be able to do this from memory. 203-493-6984 or 203-493-MYTH. Call with your regular comments and questions, discussion topics if you've got one, and, of course, if you can call in before June 15th, which shouldn't be too much of an issue, call in with a little nickname, a pun, a joke, and there could be a free expansion in it for you. So please do call in. Okay, so let's rock it in on to Tentacle Time then. Nick, you've been a busy little bee. What have you been filling the cracks of your free time with?
Oh my god. So, Young Frankenstein wrapped up about 3 weeks ago now? 2.5, 3 weeks? 3 weeks.
That was a good show, by the way. I know. I've mentioned to you that it's my favorite Mel Brooks movie, and I thought the cast was really good. You killed it. Yeah. Igor killed it. Frau Blucher killed it. It was well done.
Yeah, thank you. It was it was my first musical, but it really felt like we hit kind of this perfect storm of cast and crew, and like the tech was amazing.
Yes,
the
it
set
was.
awesome.
I was immensely impressed by the tech and the set specifically. Because
Yeah,
I've worked in that theater before, and I kind of know generally what it's capable of, and that was its A game.
Oh boy, the set was a whole nother thing. Like, that castle door was huge, and moving that on and off was crazy. The set was actually designed by a professional set designer in Duluth, and he was there for the last couple of dress rehearsals that we did just to get an idea for what it was looking like and how everything was moving and all that. So we did outsource. I say we like I was a part of that decision. The director outsourced that part of it. He designed it, and then our crew built it.
Look at you talking as part of the cast collective. Youth as
right. Yeah, I feel like I'm one of them sports fans that's like, oh, how did the Twins do today? Oh, we won, blah, blah, blah. Like, come on, you didn't win. Anyway, no, it really felt like we were firing on all cylinders. Like, we had all the perfect, elements in place, and it was mixed together well. Other than our first performance, we sold out every single night, which felt really good, because I've been in plenty of shows that not only don't sell out, but you look out there and it's like, oh, there's like a third of the seats are full, and that's it.
And for a comedy, you want a full crowd to get that laugh momentum going.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And it always, like with our specific community, it always helps to have a show that people are familiar with. But even with Young Frankenstein, even with a name like that, we didn't sell out opening night. But word traveled and we sold out every performance after that. And audience response was so overwhelmingly positive about everything that the director was even considering doing a second run for it at the end of the summer. Logistics, and we've never done, like, for any of the shows I've been in, that's never happened before. It's always been 2 weeks and that's it. But unfortunately, the logistical part of it was just too much. Like, we wouldn't be able to use live music if we did that. We'd have to use recorded music, and that introduces a whole new level of problems, and just stuff like that. So logistics didn't work out to where that would be a thing. And I'm kind of relieved, because I'm kind of, like, I'm happy to have that done and, like, finished, and I don't have to worry about it again. And I don't know if I'm going to do a musical again, because that was 10 weeks of rehearsal plus 2 weeks of performances, and it was the most work I've ever done in theater. It's my 11th production, and it feels like as much work as, like, the last 5 combined. Like, it's oof. Anyway. A lot of fun, though. Really, really enjoyed it. Formative experience, not only for my acting career, but just in general. Like, a lot of good people involved. Really loved it. Other than that,
I love that you have to think about it so hard. I'll jump in. You helped me beat Bloodborne, which was fun.
Oh, yeah. So Sean completed Bloodborne, and I made sure that I was there for all of the, like, not all of the moments, but all of, like, what I consider the important moments, so that not only could I help him through the parts that I was had super bad times with, but also so that when we would complete a section, I could kind of illuminate some of the lore behind it, and
yeah, because that game doesn't give you a friggin' anything.
No.
Nothing for free, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And so we had like 3 or 4 sessions of Nick explains Bloodborne badly.
Nice.
But it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a good run up against the final couple bosses. I expected that to take longer.
I did too. We had more issue just like getting us to be able to play together, because you would advance past where my character was, and then I would be past where yours was, and this. So we had this weird like yo-yo effect where it was like, okay, we got to slingshot each other together real quick, and then then boom, 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 3 bosses down, and it was like, wow, okay. So we did.
So Bloodborne, I'll just go ahead, and I know I've talked about it a little bit before here. If you've not tried kind of this genre of action RPG, I avoided it forever, because as y'all know, I'm kind of salty by nature, and those games are designed specifically to kick you in the general area as swiftly and efficiently as possible until you learn how to dodge it. And I avoided it forever, and I'm glad I hopped in. It was really fun. The atmosphere of that game is amazing. The way things kind of set up and shift, and like you said, Nick, like, there's not much given to you, but if you're paying attention, you look at, okay, hey, where was this body laying, and what item was it carrying? Like, some of those things kind of tell a story if you're paying attention. and that's kind of rewarding in its own way. I didn't catch much on my own, if I'm being honest, but it was kind of cool to hear other people be like, "Oh yeah, okay, there were 3 bodies laying just outside, and that could have been the thing."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I know I missed a lot of it too during my first playthrough, but then I, read stuff online, and then I went through some of it again, and then I read the 89-page lore summary.
I can't believe it's that long.
Which was a phenomenal read. Like, I want to go back and read it again because it helped shine a light on so many different things. But, god damn it, I had something I wanted to say, and now I can't remember what it was. Ugh. Oh, yeah. Bloodborne and Soulsborne games in general are, they feel like they don't want you to beat the game. Like, that's literally, like, games don't feel that way nowadays. Games feel like it's kind of like, an amusement park ride with varying difficulties, but you're meant to get to the end. Mm-hmm. And with a game like Bloodborne, the game actively does not want you to beat it, and so it does everything it can to stop you from... And so there are times when Sean's talking about, like, bosses glitching and all that, and he's like, well, it feels like I'm taking advantage. I'm like, no, do that, because this is your opportunity! Take it!
I had one moment of guilt against, like, the first boss that happened to, and then I got farther in the game. I'm like, screw this. Let's try to get stuck in the walls.
Yeah. The Abriatus, Abriatus, there was, like, when we actually ended up beating her, because I know we tried her, like, 3 or 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, that one I think took the longest.
But when we actually ended up beating her was one where, like, she glitched through her entire phase 2. Like, we were beating her and she does the transition into phase 2, and then, like, she just T-posed. Like, she would start an animation and then T-pose and nothing would happen. And I'm like, go beat the shit out of her! Go, 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 go! And then we took her out. Oh, it was so good.
Anyway,
no mercy.
So final mention... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Oh, I was just saying no mercy.
Yeah, no mercy, no guilt, no compunctions.
Which will be relevant in a second.
So the final word on Bloodborne. I would encourage everyone who has access to the PS4 to give it a try. It's super cheap now, and I think it's, at least the subject matter is fairly relevant to the interests of someone who's probably listening to this podcast and into Lovecrafty Arkham stuff, because that story starts kinda werewolfy, Transylvania-y, that kind of schlocky horror feel, although it's not schlocky in any way. But then it really kind of gets Lovecraftian as you go through, so it's pretty solid.
Well, and not only that, but there are plenty of elements, individual elements, whether it's art or whether it's a specific card, but that are, like, of Arkham Horror, the card game, that are inspired by some parts in Bloodborne, and Matt has even talked about that. So
yeah,
it's very interesting to see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting to see that transition of ideas.
Mm-hmm. And then I think the only other thing I'd want to mention is the Lord of the Rings card game. I think we're finally getting close to the next expansion releasing. We're getting more previews. We're getting, adventure packs previewed. We don't have a release date yet, but hope springeth eternal.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the theme of this next cycle?
Is it called the Wilderlands? It's in Dale.
Oh, cool.
And then it looks like we go north from there, at least according to the couple APs that we've had previewed so far. But anyway, with that looming on the horizon, I've cracked it back out. I've built some new decks, and I'm giving the Harad cycle another try. And I'm enjoying it more now than I did the first time I've run through it.
Nice.
Granted, I'm only through the first 4 scenarios, and I'm actually a fan of the box. I like the Sands of Harad box. It was because some of the scenarios in the cycle that just bothered me a little bit in certain ways. So anyway, yeah, Lord of the Rings. Again, if you haven't tried it, play it. And drink.
I'm very interested to see the percentage, like, demographic of Arkham players that have not played haven't even played Lord of the Rings. Because I would imagine it's a small percentage.
Yeah, I suppose it all just depends on how much bandwidth you have, because they're both pretty deep games, and God, Lord of the Rings has so much product now. It's getting pretty ridiculous, but what's nice about the co-op game is it doesn't matter how big the backlog is, outside of the annoyance of just not being able to get certain expansions, because you can just experience it at your own pace. So yeah. Ian, what you been up to?
Lots of things. I guess I should follow up last time because I was talking about catching up on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I did. I've watched all of them now, including Infinity War, so I'm all caught up. That was a fun experience watching them kind of in a marathon style and comparing them.
You went from way behind me to right in front of me now.
Yeah, I think I was behind like 9 movies or something, and then I watched them.
It was fun charting your journey.
And loved Infinity War. That was a great movie, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is I heard lots of good things about the show Cobra Kai, which is, if you've ever seen the Karate Kid movie back in the 80s, the bad karate dojo was Cobra Kai. And so this new show, which is on YouTube Red, actually kind of takes the Cobra Kai perspective, but in the present day. So the guy who's kind of the classic 80s jerk blonde bully, Johnny, is now kind of the main character of this show, and showing him washed up and what happened to him, and then how he's trying to restart Cobra Kai. And it's one of those cool...
Not worth winning if you can't win big. Oh, wait, that's Mighty Ducks.
It's one of those cool switch of perspective type things, and it's I heard good things about it, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. Did a free trial on YouTube Red, which I'm not going to keep, but I just wanted to watch the 10 episodes, and yeah, it's really, really good. I'm very impressed at what they were able to do with that, and actually do like an interesting continuation of an old 80s classic movie that I watched a ton of as a kid.
God, no doubt. I was about to say, that's like, it's kind of a landmark pop culture movie, but that's such an odd thing to pick up. That's like the Goonies part series.
Yeah.
See what happens on the ship.
I think they totally hit upon the right way of approaching it. Like, I think if they would have because Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid himself, is in it, and he's, of course, older and dealing with his own stuff. But I think the fact that they took it from Johnny, the quote-unquote bad guy's perspective, made a huge difference. If it would have just been, oh, this is the continuation of Karate Kid, let's see what Daniel is doing now as a middle-aged dude, like, it wouldn't have been as successful as kind of the way they approached it, and some of the just interesting issues. It sounds funny to say that about a Karate Kid based thing, but I think there's some stuff in there
it
about,
sounds funny to say Karate Kid based thing.
Yeah. But it actually deals with some interesting things about like nostalgia and like the dangers of it, and kind of those cycles that parents can tend to perpetuate in their own kids. So it's a good show. I definitely recommend it.
I'm really happy to hear that, because I actually just signed up for YouTube Red as well. I did it for the Google Music part of it, and then I was like, oh, I get YouTube Red as well? Sweet. So I actually might sit down and watch it, because I'm like, so much of our entertainment right now is nostalgia based, and it makes me like, I get concerned around that. Like, it's to the point where like a new Alien movie, a new Star Wars movie, a new Jurassic Park movie, like, these are things that I like, but I still go into them with a certain amount of trepidation, simply because like, it's like, now they're being made by the fans of the originals, and that could be either really good or not so good.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's good to hear that this is handling it well. It makes me excited to sit down and start it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Solo tomorrow. My expectations are low.
Speaking of low,
I haven't heard.
Are we talking about movies that didn't need to be made? Yeah.
I haven't heard much from like reception of Solo, like how it, like if it's good or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would be very interested to hear your thoughts on it.
I'm going into it. If it's good, no one will be more happy to like it. But my expectations are low, because Han Solo is he's in the top 5 of most iconic characters to me. So there are way more mines in that minefield than clear ground. But anyway, we'll see. It might be like, I'm excited to see Don Glover as Lando, if nothing else.
Yes, agreed.
And also Emilia Clarke is never an unwelcome sight on screen.
Sure. It is, without getting too philosophical, this is a discussion for a whole other podcast, but it is interesting the moment we live in, that out of any moment in our society, I think we're definitely the most nostalgia obsessed cultural moment there's ever been, which is an interesting thing to explore.
It's annoying.
Hi, Mimby.
There's a
Have you guys
lot
seen
to
the
unpack
South
there.
Park series with the Memberries? Oh my god, you guys need to watch. I can't remember what season it is, but it's like 10 episodes, and they actually do a continuing narrative, which South Park had not traditionally done. And basically, the Memberries are these little animated. They're kind of like a spin on the California Raisins a little bit, but they're like they're grapes with faces, I guess, or something like that. But anyway, the whole point of them is all they do is they talk about, hey, remember the cantina scene in Star Wars? Oh yeah, I remember, that was good. Yeah, let's do that again. It's like the way they play those characters throughout that series is hilarious, and it's just such a comment on how nostalgia obsessed we are.
Yeah, similar thing. My final thing is just an interactive story. I'm kind of one of my favorite time wasters on my phone is interactive fiction, which are just different story, kind of like the old choose your own adventure books, but it's kind of has the RPG element that the choices you make along the way will influence the stats of your character and whatnot. And so the most recent one that I just downloaded yesterday actually has a really interesting premise. It's so you can find it on iOS and I'm sure Android as well. So it's called Rent-A-Vice. It's a cyberpunk story, and kind of the premise is that in the future, people actually rent.
What? Cyberpunk in the future?
As opposed to the past cyberpunk, which is there is plenty of.
I like my cyberpunk circa 1600.
Medieval punk.
Crusade punk.
So the premise is that people rent each other's bodies essentially to do some kind of vice, so they don't have to do it to their own bodies. So it could be, so they basically connect to each other using these suits, and so you could use someone else's body to like eat a bunch of junk food, which would be maybe more on the innocent end without gaining calories. But then you could also do things like, oh, I want to do cliff jumping, so I'll use their body to jump off a cliff, or do drugs, or all kinds of things. And so basically obviously it's kind of the more poor people in the society are the ones who have to sell their bodies to this experience for other people to experience this dangerous stuff. So anyway, I haven't gotten too far into it, but the premise is interesting. The writing is actually, writing for interactive fiction can vary in quality, but I actually find this one pretty good, and it's interesting so far. You're the classic kind of cyberpunk private investigator trying to investigate what's going on with this whole thing. So I recommend it. Rent-A-Vice.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up here for episode 38 of Mythos Busters. Don't forget, we're at Gen Con. Come to After Dark. It's going to be awesome. We'll see you at the event. And enter our Forgotten Age contest. Just call into that old Mythos Busters hotline. Take you 30 seconds. It'll be awesome. Promise. Please call in. We need entrants.
Okay, bye.